The stars burned cold. Above the planet Gorax, smoke curled from broken cities. The once thriving alien world had fallen silent. Towering Varnock ships hovered in the sky, casting shadows over the ruins. Overlord Karzul stood on the bridge of his command vessel. The vortex blade, his black armor reflected the light of the burning world below. He watched with no emotion as the last signal from the planet's defense grid blinked out. "Another world added to the Empire," he said, his voice low and sharp. A Varnock officer stepped forward. "Orders, Overlord." Karzul turned slowly. "Set course for Sol System. Target the third planet, Earth." The officer blinked. "The humans?" Karzul sneered. "Primitive, undisciplined. Their technology is centuries behind. This will be quick." The fleet engines roared to life. Thousands of ships moved as one, forming a dark wall in the void. They had conquered dozens of star systems. Earth was next. Far away, in a command station orbiting Earth, Commander Alara Voss stared at a glowing screen. She was 38, with short dark hair and a calm face marked by quiet strength. Her uniform bore the insignia of Earth's Defense Council. "Are we sure it's them?" she asked. The technician nodded. Varnock's signature confirmed. "Multiple war-class vessels. ETA, 6 days. Alara's jaw tightened. She remembered the reports from colonies on Titan, Mars and beyond. All gone. Her younger brother had served on Titan. His last message had been a few seconds of static and a scream. She had joined Earth Defense to stop this from ever happening again. "Alert the Council," she said. "Tell them Earth is the target now." Later that night, she stood alone in the observation deck. Earth floated below, peaceful and unaware of the threat coming its way. She pressed her palm to the glass. "They think we're weak," she whispered. "Let them think it." Her eyes shifted toward Neptune. Far beyond Earth's orbit, hidden in its shadow, something massive slept, something Earth had built in secret. It was time to wake it up. The shuttle sliced through space like a silent arrow, heading toward the edge of the solar system. Commander Alara Voss sat alone in the cockpit, her eyes fixed on a growing blue dot ahead, Neptune. This far from Earth, the stars felt colder. The usual traffic of civilian and cargo ships was gone. Only silence and darkness remained. This was the dead zone, restricted space, known to only a few in the Defense Council. Alara entered a long, complex clearance code. A robotic voice responded through the comms. "Access granted. Welcome to Outpost Omega." The planet Neptune loomed large outside the shuttle's window. Just beyond its orbit, something impossible began to appear. At first, it looked like a shadow, but as Alara got closer, it took shape. It was not a ship. It was a weapon. A machine the size of a small moon, hidden in Neptune's shadow to block sensors and light. Its black hull was smooth and silent, shaped like a coiled beast ready to strike. Its name, Leviathan. Alara docked at the tiny control station connected to Leviathan's outer ring. Only a handful of humans had ever seen it in person. Even fewer had access to its core. Inside the control hub, lights flickered awake as she entered. Dust floated in the air. The place had been silent for years. She walked down a long corridor lined with screens and tubes. At the center was the neural interface chamber, a throne-like seat surrounded by cables and lights. She took a deep breath and stepped in. The AI's voice filled the room. "Commander Alara Voss, DNA confirmed. Authorization accepted." "Status?" she asked. "Leviathan is in sleep mode. Energy reserve stable. Weapons offline. Defense shields at standby." Alara looked around. The room was massive, built for both man and machine. She felt small in it, but also ready. "Begin wake-up sequence," she ordered. A deep hum filled the air. Lights across the station glowed brighter. Data screens came to life. Outside, Leviathan's hull pulsed faintly with blue energy. Slow and steady, the machine began to breathe. Back on Earth, panic spread. News of the approaching Varnock fleet leaked to the media. People argued in the streets. Governments debated. Some called for surrender. But in the cold dark near Neptune, Ilara was already preparing for war. She stood before a massive display showing Leviathan's systems. Lasers, fusion cannons, gravity warpers, everything Earth had developed in secret. All controlled by the AI. All bound to her voice. She touched the command panel. Let them come. Leviathan's core began to glow. The Varnock Armada broke into the solar system like a storm. Thousands of ships, dark, jagged, and silent, slid past Pluto and swallowed the space around it. Their formation was perfect, like a wall of knives moving in unison. In the center flew the Vortex Blade, the flagship of Overlord Karzul. Inside, the Overlord stood at the front window, watching the path ahead. Scans show no defense fleet. A Varnock officer reported. Human response is minimal. Karzul grinned, sharp teeth flashing. They hide in fear. Soon they will kneel. On Earth, the United Defense Council met in a sealed underground chamber. Dozens of leaders and generals filled the room. Screens displayed the massive fleet, drawing closer by the hour. Some faces were pale. Some shouted. Others whispered about surrender. Ilara Voss stood in the center, calm and firm. They won't stop with Earth, she said. If we fall, they'll keep going. Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, all of it. We cannot surrender. An ambassador from Europa stood. We don't have enough ships. We've never faced a force this size. Ilara raised her voice. We don't need ships. We have Leviathan. The room went quiet. You activated it? A general asked, eyes wide. She nodded. It's online. Awaiting orders. A pause, then a voice in the back whispered, God help them. In orbit above Mars, Earth's outer defense drones made first contact. The small machines fired beams of plasma and flares, automatic, brave, but useless. The Varnock barely noticed. The drones were turned to ash in seconds. Karzul watched the data feed with amusement. That was their line of defense. Pathetic. He opened a galaxy-wide broadcast, projecting his voice toward Earth. Humans. This is Overlord Karzul of the Varnock Empire. Your worlds are weak, your weapons are dust. Surrender now, and your death will be quick. Resist, and you will vanish without a trace. The message echoed through every city, every ship, every home. Fear spread like wildfire. But in the dark near Neptune, Ilara Voss heard the words and felt no fear. She stood in Leviathan's control chamber, eyes fixed on the rising energy levels. She opened a private channel directly to the Varnock fleet. This is Commander Ilara Voss of Earth. You've made a mistake. Her voice was calm, firm. You've picked the wrong planet. With a single command, she activated Leviathan's launch sequence. Outside Neptune, the stars seemed to bend. A low rumble echoed across the void as Leviathan began to move. Its massive body, once hidden in shadow, turned slowly to face the Varnock fleet. Blue lights flared across its hull. Its weapons lit up, one by one. It was not a ship. It was a warning. Earth had answered. Leviathan moved with slow, terrifying power. Its black hull glided through space, massive as a small moon, yet silent as a ghost. It turned, layer by layer, revealing weapon ports, gravity cannons, and energy vents glowing blue. Inside the command core, Ilara Voss stood at the center of the control chamber. The lights flickered, then stabilized. The AI's voice spoke clearly. Leviathan online, all systems functional, awaiting tactical input. Ilara stared at the holographic display of the Varnock Armada. They were closing in fast, a wall of ships stretching across half the solar system. She pointed toward the center of the enemy fleet. Target-led formation. Show them who we are. On the Vortex Blade, Overlord Karzul narrowed his eyes. His sensors had just picked up something large, leaving Neptune's orbit. Magnify, he ordered. The image appeared, Leviathan fully activated, and advancing slowly. His officers stared in silence. What is that? One asked. Karzul frowned. It's no human ship. It's too big, too advanced. He leaned closer. "It's alive." Then without warning, Leviathan fired. A pulse wave shot out from its core, silent, invisible, but unstoppable. The wave hit the front line of the Varnock fleet, bending space around them. Ships folded in on themselves, torn apart by gravity distortions. 20 cruisers vanished in seconds. The rest stopped, confused and shaken. Inside Leviathan, Alara kept her voice steady. "Fire again." This time Leviathan launched a barrage of energy lances. The blue beams cut through space like lightning, tearing apart the next wave of ships. The Varnock, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. Karzul slammed a clawed fist on the control panel. "Return fire. Focus on the source." Hundreds of ships opened fire. Plasma bolts, torpedoes, and quantum missiles flew through the dark, screaming toward Leviathan. But the machine did not flinch. Leviathan activated its mirror shields, an experimental defense system that bent incoming energy away. Most of the attacks missed. Others bounced back and exploded among the Varnock's own ships. In the command core, Leviathan's AI spoke again. "Enemy retaliation ineffective. Recommending forward assault." Alara nodded. "Advance." The massive war machine began to move straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. It didn't dodge. It didn't hide. It pushed through. Each step of Leviathan's forward march crushed the enemy's confidence. Varnock ships turned to run. Others rammed blindly, trying to disable it. Nothing worked. Alara watched the chaos from her screen. Her heart was calm, focused. "They thought we were weak," she said quietly. "Let them remember this moment forever." The AI responded. Memory recorded. Battle log updated. Back on Earth, people stared at their screens, watching the impossible. The Leviathan, once a secret, a rumor, was real, and it was winning. Hope returned, not through words, but through action. Through fire and steel, through Leviathan. Space burned with fire and metal. Leviathan charged into the heart of the Varnock Armada like a force of nature. Its weapons lit the darkness, gravity cannons, plasma beams, and particle disruptors firing in steady rhythm. Each blast tore through alien ships, turning them into drifting wrecks. Inside the control chamber, Commander Alara Voss stood still, her eyes locked on the battle map. Every second, a new enemy blip vanished. The AI fed her updates in a calm, emotionless voice. 72 enemy vessels destroyed. No critical damage sustained. She nodded, keeping her voice even. "Maintain pressure. Focus fire on the left flank." Leviathan turned smoothly, its cannons adjusting like clockwork. On the left side of the battlefield, a cluster of Varnock cruisers attempted to regroup. The giant war machine targeted them and fired. A ripple of explosions tore through the enemy line. On the vortex blade, Overlord Karzul's calm had turned to fury. He slammed his fist against the railing as more data came in. 300 ships lost, his chief strategist reported. "Earth's weapon is adapting to our formations." Karzul bared his teeth. "Then we adapt too." He opened a private command line. "All stealth wings, deploy now. Target its energy core. Cripple the beast." Far behind the main Varnock fleet, 12 small ships detached from a hidden carrier. They were sleek, black and quiet, designed for one purpose: to kill silently. They curved around the battlefield, invisible to most scanners. Inside Leviathan, alarms blared. Enemy cloaked units detected. Trajectory indicates core sabotage. Alara moved fast. "Redirect drones. Protect the core." Swarms of defense drones launched from Leviathan's underbelly. They spun and danced in space, searching for invisible attackers. But the Varnock stealth pilots were skilled. 2 of them broke through and reached the lower deck of Leviathan's massive core station. They landed and began drilling through the hull. Inside the chamber, lights flickered. "Hull breach detected. Core at risk," the AI warned. Alara made a decision. Reroute energy from main weapons. Seal the core. The weapons dimmed. The shields around the central core flared bright, melting the alien drills and vaporizing the intruders in seconds. But the price was high. Without full weapon power, the Varnock regained ground. Dozens of enemy ships launched another attack, this time focused and organized. Leviathan took heavy hits. Shields flickered. One of its secondary cannons exploded in a burst of flame. Inside the chamber, the floor shook. Status, Alara shouted. Outer plating damaged. Weapon output reduced by 24%. Shields at 61%. Karzul saw his chance. Bring us in, he ordered. Head straight for the machine. If I cannot destroy it from afar, I will kill its commander myself. The vortex blade surged forward, leading the remaining Varnock forces in a final charge. Alara stared at the incoming flagship. Her expression hardened. Bring it closer, she said. The AI hesitated. Enemy flagship is heavily armed. I know, but it's time. She placed her hand on the command crystal at the center of the control desk. Prepare judgment protocol. The AI paused, then responded. Judgment protocol requires direct target lock. Core will be exposed. Do it, Alara said. This ends now. Leviathan's chest opened, revealing a swirling orb of blue-white energy. Its heart, its power, its final weapon. The battlefield went silent for a moment. Then everything exploded again. The void trembled. Leviathan's core, now fully exposed, glowed like a newborn star. Blue and white energy pulsed outward in waves. It lit up the black of space and cast long shadows across the broken remains of Varnock warships. From the heart of the chaos, the vortex blade charged forward. Overlord Karzul stood tall on his command deck. His eyes locked on Leviathan's glowing core. That light, he said, voice low. It's not a weapon, it's defiance. His officers stared in fear, but he showed none. Push forward. Full power. We end this now. Inside Leviathan's control chamber, alarms echoed through the walls. Varnock flagship approaching. Estimated collision in 90 seconds. Commander Alara Voss stood calm at the center of the storm. She didn't blink. She didn't flinch. She placed both hands on the control panel and activated Judgment Protocol. Judgment Protocol initialized. The AI confirmed. Charging Stellar Breaker. 30 seconds until discharge. Massive panels on Leviathan's chest opened wide. Energy spiraled inward from all systems, weapons, engines, even shield power. The ship stopped moving. It stood still, like a tower of fire waiting to strike. Alara stared at the screen. The vortex blade was coming fast. This is what they wanted, she whispered. To break us, to bury us. She took a deep breath. Let's show them Earth does not kneel. Karzul's ship was now within range. He raised a clawed hand. Fire everything. Hundreds of plasma cannons lit up the vortex blade. They rained down on Leviathan, burning its outer hull, cutting deep into its armor. Explosions tore across its surface. Metal peeled. Lights flickered. But Leviathan did not fire back. It waited and charged. At 0 seconds, the AI spoke again. Stellar Breaker ready. Alara gave the final command. Release. From Leviathan's exposed core came a beam of energy so bright it blinded every sensor in the system. The blast did not travel, it consumed. It tore a path through space, ripping atoms apart, bending gravity itself. The vortex blade had no time to dodge. The beam hit the Varnock flagship dead center. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the ship cracked in half, swallowed by the beam. Its engines shattered. Its power cells detonated. Karzul stood on his bridge until the last moment, his face no longer angry, but shocked. The most feared overlord in the galaxy was gone. The Varnock flagship was no more. In the battle's aftermath, silence fell. The remaining Varnock ships froze. Leaderless, directionless, afraid. One by one they turned and jumped into deep space. Fleeing, retreating. Something the Varnock Empire had never done before. Inside Leviathan, Alara dropped into the command chair. She was exhausted. Bruised, but alive. Threat eliminated, the AI said. System stability at 22%. Initiating emergency cooldown. Lights dimmed. The energy core closed. The machine went quiet. She let out a slow breath. We did it. On Earth, cheers erupted across cities and spaceports. Screens showed the enemy fleeing. The people who once feared extinction now stood tall. They didn't just survive. They won. The stars were quiet now. Leviathan drifted slowly through space, scarred, but still whole. Its lights had dimmed. Its core shut down, its weapons silent. Around it floated the wreckage of a battle that had shaken the galaxy. Inside the control chamber, Commander Ilara Voss sat alone. Her uniform was torn, and her hands trembled slightly, but her eyes were steady. She stared at the display. No more red enemy markers, only empty space and distant planets. The Varnock were gone. Earth had held the line. The AI's voice broke the silence. Enemy forces retreated. No remaining threats detected. Leviathan entering low-power mode. Ilara nodded slowly. She stood and walked to the large viewing window. Neptune's cold light reflected off the steel walls. "We did what they said was impossible," she whispered. Her fingers touched the glass. "They came to crush us. But we stood, we fought, and now they run." Back on Earth, the world had changed. Massive crowds filled the streets of New York, Beijing, Nairobi, and Luna Base. People wept. They sang. They looked to the stars with pride, not fear. Screens showed Leviathan returning to orbit near Neptune, a silent guardian watching over the solar system. In the Earth Defense Council chambers, leaders spoke with a new tone. "No more hiding," one said. "We prepare now," said another. "Earth is not just a planet." Ilara's recorded voice played across the screen. "It is a force." And so, Earth's message echoed across the stars. Far beyond, on unknown worlds, alien species watched recordings of the battle. They had heard of the Varnock. They had feared them, but now they whispered something new. Earth survived. They built Leviathan. They destroyed the Empire's strongest. And slowly, word spread. Not of surrender, but of resistance, of strength, of Earth. Inside Leviathan, now in hibernation mode, Ilara stood in the central chamber one last time. The AI's voice was soft. "Commander, should we remain active?" Ilara placed a hand on the glowing core, now dim but still alive. "No," she said. "Sleep now, but be ready." She walked to the exit. Before she left, she looked back at the massive machine that had saved her world. Because one day, they'll come again. She stepped into the shuttle and left Leviathan behind, watching as it disappeared into the dark once more. A shadow in Neptune's orbit. A myth, a warning, a shield.